The wind howled across the crystalline plains of Novus Prime, where razor-sharp formations jutted from the ground like the teeth of ancient beasts. Tiny particles of silvery dust danced in the alien sunlight, casting rainbow-like reflections across the excavation site's protective dome. Unipark's hands moved with practiced precision as she brushed away centuries of accumulated debris from her latest find. Despite wearing the standard archaeological protective suit, she could feel the cold seeping through. The dig site had been active for months, yielding nothing but fragments of technology too damaged to understand. But today felt different. The object beneath her tools was unlike anything they'd found before. A perfect hexagonal crystal, its surface unmarred by time. As her brush swept away the last of the dust, the crystal emitted a faint pulse of blue light that made her heart skip a beat. Around her, other members of the archaeological team continued their work, unaware of what she had just uncovered. The excavation site sprawled across several kilometers, with dozens of researchers carefully documenting every fragment of the ancient civilization they'd discovered. Their base camp sat at the edge of the dig site, its white structures stark against the crystal-studded landscape. "Director Han," Yuna called out, struggling to keep her voice steady. "Director Han, please come quickly." Jin Han had been supervising another section of the dig when he heard Yuna's call. He was an older man, his face lined with years of exposure to harsh alien environments, but he moved with surprising speed across the uneven terrain. His eyes, sharp despite his age, immediately focused on the crystal in Yuna's hands. "Careful," he warned, kneeling beside her. "What do we have?" Before Yuna could answer, the crystal pulsed again, stronger this time. A beam of light shot upward, expanding into a holographic display that filled the air above them. Other researchers stopped their work, drawn by the unexpected illumination. The hologram showed Earth, not the Earth they knew from historical records, but Earth as it had been 500,000 years ago. Cities stretched across continents, vehicles filled the skies, and vast space stations orbited the planet. Then came the Watchers. Their ships appeared without warning, massive constructs that dwarfed humanity's greatest achievements. The hologram showed scenes of panic as people were herded into massive transport vessels. Children cried, families clutched each other, and humanity's greatest cities emptied in a matter of days. "This can't be right," Jin muttered, his weathered hands shaking as he made notes on his tablet. "According to our histories, we left Earth voluntarily, seeking new worlds to colonize." The hologram shifted, showing meetings between human leaders and the Watchers. The aliens towered over the humans, their forms obscured by shimmering environmental suits. Their true appearance remained hidden, but their actions spoke volumes. More scenes played out: secret laboratories where the Watchers studied humans, observation posts where they monitored Earth's development, and finally, a meeting where the truth was revealed. The Watchers' own records, translated by the crystal's built-in systems, told a story of fear. They feared human creativity, their ability to adapt and overcome challenges. They feared how quickly humans advanced, how they turned setbacks into opportunities. Most of all, they feared what humanity might become if left unchecked. "They feared us," Jin whispered, watching the records with growing anger. "All this time, we thought they were our saviors, but they were our jailers." Yuna sat back on her heels, her mind racing. "This changes everything we thought we knew about our history." The evacuation wasn't protection. It was exile. The crystal continued its revelation, showing how the Watchers had carefully selected which humans would be taken and which would be left behind. They had split humanity, scattering them across different worlds, believing that divided, they would be easier to control. As the hologram faded, Jin stood slowly, his face set with determination. "Gather everything," he ordered, his voice carrying across the now silent dig site. "Every crystal, every fragment. We need to know everything they hid from us." Yuna carefully placed the crystal in a containment unit, her hands trembling slightly. "What do we do with this information?" she asked quietly. Jin looked up at the alien sky, where 3 moons cast their pale light through the protective dome. We find others like us, he said firmly. We find every human colony, every fragment of our scattered species. And then he paused, his eyes hardening as he looked at the crystal that had shattered their understanding of history. Then we take back what's ours. It's time Earth's children came home. Around them, the crystalline plains of Novus Prime stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to a truth 500,000 years in the making. The wind continued to howl, carrying with it the promise of change and revenge. The soft hum of quantum computers filled the vast underground chamber of the Stellar Academy's archives. Holographic displays cast a blue glow across the room, illuminating rows of data crystals that stretched as far as the eye could see. Research Director Mina Lee had barely left this room in the 3 weeks since the discovery on Novus Prime. Her eyes burned from staring at endless streams of data, but she couldn't stop. Not now. Not when each new translation revealed darker truths about humanity's past. Empty coffee cups littered her workstation, testament to her relentless pursuit of answers. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Admiral Ta Kim's footsteps echoed through the chamber as he approached, his military uniform a stark contrast to the casual clothes of the researchers scattered throughout the archive. "Director Lee," he called out, "I came as soon as I received your message. You said it was urgent." Mina nodded without looking up, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Look at this," she said, pulling up a complex diagram of DNA structures. "We finally decoded the Watcher's genetic research files." The Admiral leaned closer, though the technical details meant little to him. "What am I looking at?" "Proof," Mina said, her voice tight with anger. "Proof that the Watchers didn't just exile us. They tried to remake us entirely." She highlighted specific sections of the DNA strand, which glowed red in the holographic display. These genetic markers showed deliberate manipulation. They tried to remove what they saw as our dangerous traits, our creativity, our drive to explore, our ability to adapt rapidly. They wanted to turn us into something they could control. The Admiral's expression hardened. Yet here we are, still possessing those very traits they tried to eliminate. How many other species did they do this to? Mina pulled up another display, this one showing a map of known space. That's what's truly frightening. We found references to at least 7 other species they relocated and experimented on. Most of them disappeared completely. We might be the only ones who survived their tampering. She stood up, stretching muscles cramped from hours of sitting. But there's more. The genetic modifications, they weren't entirely successful. The Watchers couldn't understand why. Walking to another terminal, she activated a new display showing historical records. "Look at these population studies." Every time they thought they'd succeeded in making us more docile, new traits would emerge. Children would be born with the same creativity, the same drive they tried to eliminate. "They failed," Admiral Ta said, a note of pride in his voice. "Not exactly," Mina corrected. "They didn't fail. They gave up. After countless attempts to modify our genetics, they discovered something that terrified them even more than our original traits." She pulled up another file, this one showing complex mathematical models. The modifications they made. We adapted to them. Not just resisted, adapted. Used them to become stronger. Every generation born after their experiments showed increasing resistance to genetic manipulation. The Admiral whistled softly. "We evolved to counter their tampering." "Exactly," Mina said. And that's when they made their final decision. The Watchers realized they couldn't control us through genetic engineering, so they chose exile instead. They scattered us across different worlds, hoping distance and isolation would keep us weak. She paused, bringing up one final display, a map showing the locations of known human colonies. But they made a crucial mistake. They left copies of their research behind, hidden in places like Novus Prime. They never imagined we'd advance enough to find them. let alone understand them. Admiral Ta studied the map thoughtfully. How many colonies have we identified? 17 so far, Minna replied. Each one genetically distinct, shaped by 500,000 years of separate evolution. But all of them still fundamentally human. All of them still carrying the traits the Watchers feared. The Admiral straightened, his military bearing more pronounced. We need to contact them all. Every colony, every lost branch of humanity. The Watchers tried to divide us. It's time we united. Minna nodded, but her expression remained troubled. There's one more thing, Admiral. These archives don't just contain research data. They contain locations, coordinates, not just to other colonies, but to Earth itself. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of computers. The implications hung heavy in the air between them. Earth, the Admiral whispered. After all this time. Yes, Minna said. But the coordinates aren't the only thing we found. The Watchers left something else behind. Weapons, defense systems, technology they used to control entire species, and now we know how to use it. Admiral Ta looked at the displays surrounding them. Humanity's stolen history, laid bare in streams of data and light. Prepare everything, he ordered. Every file, every piece of technology we can understand. It's time to show the Watchers' machines what humanity has become. In the vast underground chamber, surrounded by the ghosts of humanity's past, Minna and the Admiral began planning humanity's future. The Watchers had tried to change what humans were, only to create something stronger than they could have imagined. Now, after 500,000 years, that strength would finally be unleashed. Stars shimmered like scattered diamonds against the void of space as Captain Hana Ryu gazed through the massive viewport of the Vindication. Below, Novus Prime's crystalline surface reflected the light of its 3 moons, creating an otherworldly display that still took her breath away even after all these years. But today, her attention was fixed on something far more impressive. Ships, hundreds of them, gathering in high orbit, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. They came in all shapes and sizes, sleek destroyers from the Centauri worlds, massive colony ships from Arcturus, swift corvettes from the Proxima systems. Each vessel represented a different branch of humanity, separated for 500,000 years, now united in purpose. Another fleet just arrived from the Epsilon colonies. Commander Sunpark reported, his voice steady as he monitored the tactical displays. That makes 17 colonial fleets now assembled. Hana nodded, watching as the new arrivals took their positions in the growing armada. The Epsilon ships were beautiful things, all curved lines and iridescent hulls that seemed to shift colors as they moved. Their designs were as different from the Vindication's angular form as their builders were from the humans of Novus Prime. Yet they were all children of Earth. How many ships total? She asked, though she'd checked the numbers dozens of times already. 1,342 combat-capable vessels, Sun replied, plus support ships, colony vessels, and research craft. The largest fleet humanity has ever assembled. The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations, each focused on the monumental task of coordinating such a massive gathering of ships. Through the viewport, Hana could see smaller vessels darting between the capital ships, carrying supplies, personnel, and the vital quantum drive components that would make their journey possible. The Arcturus quantum drives are being installed as scheduled, Sun continued. Engineering reports they're integrating perfectly with our systems. Better than we hoped, actually. The colonial separation may have divided us, but it also meant we developed different solutions to the same problems. Hana moved closer to the tactical display, studying the fleet formations. Each colonial fleet brought its own strengths. Epsilon's stealth technology, Centauri's weapons advances, Arcturus's quantum drives. Technologies that had developed independently over 500,000 years of separation were now being combined in ways the Watchers could never have predicted. Message from Fleet Command, announced the communications officer. Admiral Ta wants all command staff to review the final strategic briefing. The holographic display at the center of the bridge sprang to life. showing a detailed map of their planned route to Earth. It would take them through regions of space they knew nothing about, past dangers they could only imagine. 18 months of travel, even with the new quantum drives. To think, Hannah said softly, our ancestors made this journey in the opposite direction, not by choice but by force. Now we return, not as refugees, but as an army. The bridge fell silent as the crew contemplated her words. They had all seen the records recovered from Novus Prime, had all felt the same anger at learning the truth of their exile. But now, that anger had purpose. Captain, Sun said, breaking the silence, the last of the Epsilon ships are in position. The fleet is assembled and ready. Hannah straightened, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Signal all ships to begin power-up sequences. Coordinate with Fleet Command for final departure checks. The bridge came alive with activity as her orders were carried out. Outside, the assembled ships began to power up their drives, thousands of points of light growing brighter against the darkness of space. Engineering reports quantum drives at full capacity, Sun announced. Navigation has plotted our first jump coordinates. All ships report ready for departure. Hannah took one last look at Novus Prime below them. For centuries, it had been their home, a place of exile turned into a sanctuary. Now it would become something else, the launching point for humanity's return. Send to all ships, she ordered, her voice clear and strong. The time for waiting is over. Our ancestors were driven from Earth, scattered across the stars, changed against their will. But they endured. They adapted. They grew stronger. Now, after 500,000 years, their children return home. She paused, watching as the fleet's formation tightened, thousands of ships moving as one. Prepare for quantum jump on my mark. Take us home. The stars seemed to bend as the quantum drives engaged, reality itself warping around the massive fleet. In an instant, the largest gathering of humans since the exile vanished from Novus Prime's orbit, leaving behind only the gleam of crystalline plains below and the promise of return. The journey home had begun, and with it, a new chapter in humanity's long exile. Across the fleet, millions of humans from different colonies, with different evolutionary paths, united in a single purpose, to reclaim what was taken from them, and to show the Watchers' machines what humanity had become. The massive fleet dropped out of quantum space in perfect formation, their arrival rippling through the solar system like a stone cast into still water. After 18 months of travel, they had finally reached their destination, Earth's solar system, humanity's original home. Science Officer Ji Li's fingers flew across her console as data streamed in from the fleet's sensors. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Captain, she called out, double-checking her readings. You need to see this. Captain Hannah moved from her command chair to Ji's station, where holographic displays showed their first detailed scans of Earth. The planet hung in space like a jewel, but it wasn't the Earth they knew from their historical records. The atmospheric composition is different, Ji explained, highlighting various readings. Oxygen levels are 30% higher than our records indicate. The planet's magnetic field has been artificially strengthened. And the continents. She trailed off as she brought up a comparison view. The continents had been reshaped, not by natural forces, but by deliberate intervention. Vast stretches of land showed signs of careful environmental engineering. They've turned the entire planet into some kind of preserve, Ji reported, her voice tight with controlled anger. The Watchers didn't just exile us. They'd redesigned Earth itself. More data poured in as the fleet's sensor network expanded. Artificial structures dotted the planet's surface, most of them hidden beneath thick vegetation or buried underground. Massive environmental control systems regulated everything from weather patterns to tectonic activity. Life signs? Hannah asked, studying the displays. Ji adjusted her scans. Yes, and that's the most surprising part. There are humans down there, but they're different. They've evolved separately from us for 500,000 years. Their genetic structure shows significant variations from both our historical baseline and our current genome. The bridge crew fell silent as the implications sank in. The Watchers hadn't just exiled most of humanity. They had left some behind as test subjects. Detecting automated defense platforms in high orbit, Commander Sun reported from his station. Currently inactive, but they appear to be in standby mode. Thousands of them, forming a complete defensive grid around the planet. Hannah's expression hardened as she returned to her command chair. "Show me the population centers." The main view screen shifted to display a map of Earth's surface. Human settlements appeared as clusters of light, scattered across all continents. But they weren't the sprawling cities of their historical records. Instead, they seemed to be smaller, more integrated with their environments. "Their technology level appears to be pre-industrial," Jai reported. "But their biology. Captain, they've adapted to Earth's modified environment in ways we never could have predicted. Enhanced strength, improved oxygen processing, natural resistance to radiation. They didn't just turn Earth into a preserve," Hannah said, her voice cold. "They turned it into their personal laboratory, and those they left behind became their test subjects." A signal chimed from the communication station. "Captain, we're picking up transmissions from the surface. Not radio, some kind of quantum resonance communication. It's primitive compared to ours, but—" "Let me hear it," Hannah ordered. The bridge filled with strange sounds, not quite speech, not quite music, but something in between. After a moment, the ship's computers began translating. "They're talking about us," the communications officer reported. "They can see our ships. They've been waiting for us. Their legends speak of the returning ones." Hannah stood, moving to the viewport where Earth filled their view. "All these years, we thought we were coming back to reclaim an empty world from machines. Instead, we're coming home to family we never knew we had." "Captain," Sun called out, his voice urgent. "The defense platforms. They're powering up." Warning signals flashed across every display as the ancient defense grid awakened. The Watchers might be long gone, but their machines remained, programmed to keep humanity divided. "Signal the fleet," Hannah ordered, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "Battle formations, but no offensive actions without my direct order. We didn't come this far to destroy our own home." As the fleet moved into defensive positions, more transmissions came from the surface. The Earth-bound humans were reaching out, their messages becoming clearer as the ship's computers refined their translations. "Welcome home, Sky Brothers," the messages said. "We kept the light burning." Hannah watched as the defense platforms began to move, their ancient weapons charging. The Watchers had tried to divide humanity, to control their evolution through separation and selective breeding. But they had failed to account for one thing: humanity's stubborn refusal to be what others wanted them to be. "Prepare for contact," she ordered, "both with those defenses and with our long-lost family below. It's time to make Earth whole again." Around them, the fleet's weapons powered up, not in anger but in determination. After 500,000 years, humanity's scattered children were finally reuniting, and no ancient machines would stop them from becoming what they were meant to be. The ancient chamber deep beneath the Himalayas hummed with tension as humans from across the galaxy faced their earthbound cousins for the first time. Carved from living rock millions of years ago, the vast hall had served as a meeting place for Earth's hidden leaders for countless generations. Now it hosted the most important gathering in human history. Admiral Ta studied the faces around the massive stone table. To his left sat the space-born humans, colony leaders with skin tones ranging from pale to dark, some showing the effects of different gravities and atmospheres. To his right were the Earth dwellers, their bodies adapted to the modified planet in striking ways. Da Song, leader of the mountain clans, stood out even among his fellow Earth dwellers, standing nearly 7 feet tall, with dense muscles adapted to the higher oxygen content and stronger gravity. He moved with a fluid grace that belied his size. His eyes, adapted for the changing light conditions of their underground cities, seemed to glow softly in the chamber's dim light. The defense grid grows stronger each day, Admiral Tay reported, his voice echoing off the ancient walls. Our ships can hold position, but breaking through to establish ground bases has proven impossible. The machines learn, added Captain Hannah from her position near the Admiral. Each attack we make teaches them new strategies. They're adapting almost as quickly as we are. A murmur ran through the assembled leaders. The Watchers' automated defenses had proven far more formidable than anyone had expected, their ancient systems displaying an intelligence that bordered on consciousness. We know these machines, Da Song said, his deep voice carrying easily across the chamber. For 500,000 years, they have shaped our world, controlled our movements, directed our development. But they have also shown us their weaknesses. He gestured to one of his people, who activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed a complex network of underground tunnels and installations spanning the globe. The Watchers built their control systems deep within the Earth, Dad explained. They thought the depth would protect them from interference. Instead, it brought them within our reach. The Earth dwellers had spent centuries mapping these underground networks, passing the knowledge from generation to generation. What the Watchers had intended as a prison had become a pathway to resistance. Our bodies adapted to survive underground, another Earth dweller added. We can navigate passages your people would find impossible, but we lack the technical knowledge to understand the machines we find. And we have the technical knowledge but lack the physical adaptations to reach many of these installations. Admiral Ta completed the thought. Together, though, together we are stronger than the sum of our parts, Day said firmly. Our differences don't matter. We all share the same ancestors, the same home, and now the same enemy. The Watchers' automated systems still control Earth. Together, we can take it back. The chamber erupted in discussion as leaders from both groups began sharing information, matching abilities to needs. The Earth dwellers' knowledge of hidden passages could get teams past the surface defenses. The space-borne humans' technical expertise could disable the control systems once reached. There's something else, Dai said, quieting the room. Something we've never shared with outsiders before. He nodded to another of his people, who brought forward what looked like an ancient tablet. We didn't just adapt physically, he explained. Some of us developed other abilities. The Watchers' attempts to control us changed us in ways they never intended. He placed his hand on the tablet, and it came to life, not through any visible technology, but through some direct connection between his mind and the ancient device. Some of us can interface directly with their systems, he said as the assembled leaders watched in amazement. We can speak to their machines, understand their language, but we lack the knowledge to make use of this ability effectively. Admiral Ta leaned forward, his eyes bright with possibility. And we have experts in AI and quantum computing who understand how these systems work, but can't interface with them directly. Exactly, Da smiled. The Watchers tried to divide us, to make us weaker. Instead, they created complementary strengths. Apart, neither of our peoples could defeat their machines. Together, we are what humanity was meant to become, Admiral Tai finished. The chamber filled with renewed energy as plans began to form. Teams were assembled, matching Earth dwellers' physical abilities and unique talents with space-borne humans' technical expertise. Attack strategies were developed, targeting key control nodes in the Watchers' network. As the meeting continued deep into the night, Admiral Ta found himself standing with Da Song near one of the chamber's ancient ventilation shafts, watching their people work together. They feared this, Day said quietly. Not our strength, not our intelligence, but our ability to adapt and work together. That's why they tried to keep us apart. And in doing so, they guaranteed we would become exactly what they feared, Admiral Tay replied. Not just survivors, but something new, something stronger. Above them, the Watchers' machines continued their endless patrol of Earth's skies. But beneath the mountains, humanity was becoming whole again, preparing to take back their world not through force alone, but through the very unity their ancient oppressors had tried to prevent. Lightning crackled across Earth's upper atmosphere as Commander Park's fighter squadron dove through layers of automated defenses. The sky burned with plasma fire and explosions, turning night into day across half the planet. Below them, the ground forces were making their final push toward the primary control center hidden deep within what had once been Mount Fuji. "Razor Squadron, form up on my wing," Yu called out as her fighter twisted through a maze of energy beams. "We need to keep those orbital platforms off our ground teams." The sleek fighters moved like a single organism, their pilots combining spaceborne reflexes with Earth-dweller strength. They had trained for months for this moment, learning to work together despite their differences. The Watchers' automated defenses responded with increasing intensity. New patterns emerged in their attack strategies, the ancient machines learning and adapting even as they fought. Waves of defensive drones rose from hidden bases, their formations becoming more complex with each engagement. "They're trying to box us in," Yu's wing commander reported, his fighter narrowly avoiding a collision with a drone. "These patterns, they're not random. The machines are thinking." Yu watched as the tactical display showed more defense platforms emerging from orbital hiding places. "They're not just thinking," she replied, rolling her fighter through another barrage. "They're scared." Below, General Min Park led the ground assault on the primary control center. Earth-dweller scouts had discovered ancient access tunnels leading deep into the mountain, bypassing the heaviest defenses. Teams of spaceborne technical experts worked alongside physically adapted Earth-dwellers, combining their strengths to overcome each obstacle. "Section 7 secured," Min's voice crackled over the comm. "Moving deeper. These tunnels, they're changing as we advance. The whole mountain seems alive with machinery." Technical specialist Ju Choi worked furiously at his portable quantum interface, trying to make sense of the data flooding through the ancient systems. Each level they captured gave them access to more of the Watchers' network, but the information was overwhelming. "General," Ju called out suddenly, his voice tight with surprise. "You need to see this. These readings, they don't make sense." Min made his way to Ju's position, ducking under hanging cables that seemed to pulse with internal light. "What have you found?" "The command protocols, the response patterns, they're all automated. Fully automated. There's no higher control, no oversight." Ju's fingers flew across his interface. "The Watchers, they're gone. They haven't been here for thousands of years. We've been fighting their machines." The revelation hit Min like a physical blow. "Confirm that," he ordered, even as more data streamed across Ju's screens. Above, the battle continued to rage. Yu's squadron had created a corridor through the orbital defenses, allowing more ground forces to land. But the machines were adapting faster now, their responses becoming more desperate. "They know," Yu realized as she watched the defense patterns shift. "The machines know we've discovered the truth. They're fighting harder because they're afraid we'll shut them down." The battle reached a new intensity. Automated factories deep within the Earth began producing more defense drones. Orbital platforms adjusted their positions, creating overlapping fields of fire that threatened to overwhelm even the most skilled pilots. "All forces, push forward," General Min's voice carried across all channels. "The Watchers are gone. These are just machines following old orders. We're not fighting an enemy, we're fighting a program." The knowledge changed everything. The technical teams, now understanding what they faced, began targeting the automated system's core programming rather than their physical infrastructure. Earth-dwellers with their unique abilities to interface with the ancient machines worked alongside spaceborne hackers, unraveling protocols that had run unopposed for 500,000 years. "Commander Yu," Min called over the secure channel. "We need a final push, get us an opening to the central core. We've got one chance to end this." Yu looked at her tactical display, seeing the impossible web of defenses between her squadron and the mountain. "Understood, General. All fighters, form up. We're going to show these machines what humanity has become." The final assault was like nothing Earth had seen in 500,000 years. Fighters wove impossible patterns through the defense grid, their pilots pushing the limits of human ability. On the ground, combined teams of Earth-dwellers and spaceborne humans fought their way through layers of automated resistance. In the heart of the mountain, Ju made the final connection to the central core. The machine's desperate resistance suddenly made sense. They weren't fighting to keep humanity away from Earth. They were fighting to maintain the illusion of control, to keep following orders from masters who had abandoned them ages ago. "The Watchers left us here," Ju said quietly as his programs began shutting down the ancient systems. "They left all of us, humans and machines, and never came back." Above, the orbital platforms began powering down one by one. The drones fell from the sky, their controlling intelligence finally released from its ancient duties. In the mountain's core, lights that had burned for 500,000 years finally dimmed. Earth was free. Not won back from alien overlords, but reclaimed from their forgotten machines. As the sun rose over a battlefield that was already growing quiet, humanity began to understand that their greatest enemy had never been the Watchers. It had been the chains of programming that had kept them divided for so long. The first rays of sunlight crept across Earth's transformed landscape, touching ruins both ancient and new. The morning air carried the scent of ozone from yesterday's battle, mixed with the strange, sweet fragrance of plants engineered 500,000 years ago. In the heart of what had once been the Watchers' primary control facility, humans from across the galaxy gathered to witness a new dawn. Admiral Ta stood before the assembled leaders, his uniform still bearing marks from the final battle. Around him, spaceborne humans mingled with their Earth-dwelling cousins, their differences now a source of strength rather than division. The vast chamber, once sterile and machine-like, now hummed with human voices speaking a dozen different dialects. "We came here seeking revenge," Admiral Ta began, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "We came as exiles, returning to reclaim what was stolen from us. But what we found was something far more precious." He gestured to the gathered crowd, where Captain Hannah stood next to Da Song, their physical differences highlighting how far humanity had evolved along different paths. Technical specialists worked alongside Earth-dwellers at ancient consoles, combining their unique abilities to understand the facility's secrets. "In trying to divide us, the Watchers gave us diversity," Ta continued. "In trying to control us, they taught us resilience. In trying to limit us, they forced us to adapt and grow in ways they never imagined." A murmur ran through the crowd as Ju Choi emerged from the facility's deepest vault, carrying a crystal data core that pulsed with internal light. "Admiral," he called out, his voice tight with excitement. "We found it. The Watcher's final message." The crystal was placed in a reader, and holographic text filled the air above the assembled humans. The message was brief, but its implications were staggering. "We feared what humanity would become," the ancient text read. "We saw in them the potential to surpass us, to evolve beyond our understanding. Our efforts to control them have failed. In exile, they will grow stronger. In division, they will find unity. What we feared, we have ensured. We leave this record as our confession and our tribute." Silence fell over the chamber as the words sank in. They hadn't been exiled because they were dangerous, but because they had the potential to surpass even the Watchers themselves. In trying to prevent humanity's rise, the Watchers had instead ensured it. "Look at us now," Admiral Ta said softly. "Spaceborne humans with technology the Watchers never imagined. Earth-dwellers with abilities they couldn't predict. Together, we are more than they ever feared we might become." From her position near the front, Captain Hannah watched the Earth-dwellers demonstrating their unique abilities to interface with ancient systems. Nearby, spaceborne engineers shared their understanding of quantum physics with fascinated Earthbound scientists. Knowledge and abilities flowed freely between groups that had been separated for 500,000 years. "We have decisions to make," Da Song spoke up, his enhanced voice easily reaching every ear. "Earth has been transformed. Do we try to return it to what it was, or do we embrace what it has become?" The question sparked immediate discussion among the gathered leaders. The Watchers had engineered Earth into something new, a world of higher oxygen, stronger gravity, and carefully controlled environments. The humans left behind had adapted to these changes, becoming something remarkable in their own right. Perhaps, Admiral Ta suggested, we should let Earth be what it has become, while we become something new ourselves. Not spaceborne or Earth-dwelling, but simply human, in all our wonderful variations. The discussion continued as the sun rose higher, its light filtering through the facility's crystal dome. Plans were made not for revenge or reconstruction, but for integration and growth. Spaceborne technologies would be adapted to work with Earth's transformed environment. Earth-dweller abilities would be studied and understood, their genetic gifts shared with all humanity. In the facility's communication center, messages were already being sent to the colonies, sharing not just their victory, but their discovery. Humanity hadn't just reclaimed Earth, they had found their true legacy. The Watchers' fear had given them the stars, and their absence had given humanity the freedom to grow beyond anyone's expectations. As the day wore on, Admiral Ta found himself standing with Captain Hana and Da Song on a balcony overlooking the transformed landscape. In the distance, ships from the spaceborne fleet hung in the sky alongside clouds engineered 500,000 years ago. "What do you think the Watchers would say if they could see us now?" Hannah asked. Day smiled, his enhanced eyes taking in the scene. "I think they would finally understand what they really created, not a species to be feared, but one to be admired. They gave us the galaxy," Admiral Tai added, "and in trying to limit us, they gave us the strength to claim it." Below them, humans of all varieties worked together to understand and integrate their different technologies and abilities. The reunited human species faced a new chapter, not as exiles seeking revenge, but as the inheritors of Earth and the stars beyond. The morning wind carried the promise of a future the Watchers had never imagined, one where humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their adaptations, but their ability to come together and become something greater than the sum of their parts.